Welcome to the No Love Podcast, where we decrease tomorrow's divorce rate today by teaching singles and couples alike how to experience love on purpose and not by chance. I am your host, Edward L. Fairley, accompanied by my wonderful co-host, Michelle Larkin. Michelle, say hi to the people.
Hey, world. No love.
All right. Actually, I got some good news. A lot of people were like, well, I can't see her. You can only see her when we put it up on our YouTube channel, which is typically on Mondays or on the weekend, but we have finally found software where it will allow for you to see both of us live starting on next week. So be on the lookout for that. Until then, you're going to have to watch my beastly face by myself and just hear her respond back and forth with me until you get to see who she is on next week live while we go through this. Today, well, first of all, how has your week been so far? Michelle, how was your week? Yeah, how was your week been so far?
It's been pretty anticlimactic after Valentine's Day when we were going in. But haven't you can't hear me? Can you hear me now?
Or can I hear you?
That's you, because my mic is on. Hello?
I think I just heard you. Yes, I hear you now. Hey, say hi to the people. Hello.
Hello.
Are you? Wow. Okay. You were mine for a second. You made the big gesture like you were going to yell, and then you hit me with the hello. Okay. So how was your week today? I mean, or this week, period, so far?
It's incredibly blessed. I shared with someone about our conversation last week and how love just comes in so many different ways into our life that it's very interesting to talk about it, which makes me more mindful. So it's been a blessing to just be more mindful of the different ways love has come into my life, and I interact with it all the time. As a matter of fact, I posted on Instagram about how happy I am to be able to see and notice and appreciate the love that comes through friends and associates and just people. It's just really been a blessed.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad that you had a blessed week thus far. This topic is going to be a very interesting topic. Before I get in, for those of you who are new to the process, please don't forget your #9s. #9s just simply mean that you either heard an aha moment or you heard something that you did not realize was true in the past that helped you. #9 just means the number of truth, TRUTH, because we go off of truth, not things that are true. And from the number 9 standpoint, if you multiply 9 by any number, when you add the actual total that you get and break it down to its simplest form, once you add it all together, it always goes back to 9. So I typically give the example 9 times 11 will give you 99. 99 is 9 plus 9, which gives you 18. 1 plus 8 gives you 9. You can do that with any number if you want, just to kind of test what I'm saying. But when it comes to 9 and the multiples of it, the total sum of it and its simplest form will always be 9. And what we mean by that is what we teach here is truth. So you can't hide from the truth. There's a lot of things that are being taught that are theory and are true, but they're not truth, meaning circumstances will change that. So if we get to the truth, that will assist us in loving on purpose as opposed to by chance. The topic of today is called, and I was intentional about this, your mate versus your friends. And this is a very subtle yet destructive problem that people have in their relationships in marriage. So I really wanted to bring it to the surface so people could be mindful of it. And I personally don't understand how it happens, but people are in relationships or married to persons that are not their friends. And if you think about the concept of a friend is something or someone that you tell pretty much any and everything to. You are very transparent with them, and because they receive you for who you are, as you are, without any judgment, you tell them everything. That's the reason why you tell them everything, because they don't judge you. They don't say anything bad about your past or even your current situations. And because of that, you share your most intimate information and experiences with that type of person. Now, with that being said, there's people that are married or in a relationship and they consider their spouse or their mate, but they don't feel that that is their friend, and they don't even realize it. But here are some ways that you can realize if that is your situation. If you say things like, well, I can't tell my husband that, or I can't tell my woman that, she will, whatever you fill in the blank. She'll go crazy. She'll snap on me, or she'll be mad with me, or anything of that nature. If you're having thought processes like that, you already have a relationship problem. If you don't feel that you can talk to your man about any and everything, if you don't feel like you can talk to your woman about any and everything, then you already have a relationship problem. But there's a lot of people who are in a relationship or married to their man or their mate, but they don't feel that that is their friend. So we're going to unpack why that is, and even like share how detrimental that can be. Because if you can't tell your man or your woman everything, then you're, for one, keeping things to yourself. Two, you can be, for lack of a better term, in a predicament where you can be blackmailed, so to speak, to prevent information from getting out. Two, you're not being yourself, your complete self around them. So if they're the one that you're spending a lot of your time with, then most of the time you're not yourself. And then lastly, which is why this is so imperative that you fall in love with yourself before you become in a relationship with someone else, because if you're acting a certain way to win them over, you have to live up to that in order to maintain them, or you'll try to live up to that in order to maintain them as a person. So if you fall in love with yourself, you'll present yourself as yourself, which in turn will allow you to be in a relationship with a friend. So let's kind of talk about how, for one, detrimental that is. And it just brings me back to a story of a family friend, a close family friend that we had. God rest his soul. He passed, actually. But I had known him for years, and he and I had a relationship. We laughed and we joked about just each other all the time. And he ended up being diagnosed with diabetes, and he did not really treat it well. He didn't eat right and things of that nature, so much so that he actually lost a limb. He lost I believe it was his left leg, and up to the knee. So because he got sick and he ended up losing his leg, he ended up having to, his daughter she lived in Georgia. So I never met his daughter, but yet we're close. I've heard of his daughter, spent time with his granddaughter, who is his daughter's child. So she came and played. Clearly her dad he lost his leg. And so she came to daddy's rescue, and he's at my mother's house, and he finally got back from the hospital. He didn't get his new leg yet. And because of the relationship that we have, soon as I saw him in the house, his daughter's sitting in my mom's house, he's sitting in the house, I come in the house, the first thing that I say when I see him, when I come into the house, which is his daughter's first experience of who I am, I say to him, "So you'll do anything for half off of shoes?" And he wailed out a laugh and dropped his head. Now, before you conclude that I am this insensitive jerk, I stated in the beginning that our relationship was we always picked on each other. His daughter, as I stated, she thought I was a complete insensitive jerk, and she did not like me in the beginning of the relationship. But as time passed, she realized that her father did not want to spend time with her. He gravitated towards spending time with me, the person who the first thing he saw or heard from him after he lost his leg was you would do anything to get half off of shoes. Now, as time went by, she wanted to understand why in the world did he want to be around such an insensitive jerk who would say such harsh things to her dad about him losing his legs. And what I had to help him and her and everyone else that was around him realize was he enjoyed the normalcy that I gave him after him losing his leg. They were starting to treat him as someone that could not do. Oh, can I help you with that or whatever? No one wants to feel like, especially if they went through life all their lives, he's in his 50s, they went through life all their lives being able to do for themselves. One of the worst things that could happen is you lose something you had. Now, it's one thing to be born not having something, but to lose something that you've had, that is a devastating reality that you have to accept. And I was his only sense of normalcy, even in my quote unquote insensitive joking, so much so that he wanted to be around me. Now, the reason why I share that story is a lot of you all are in relationships with people that would rather spend time with their friends, would rather not be home, would rather be in different environments away from you. And the reason why that is because the people that they want to spend time with, who are more than likely really their friends, are the normalcy that they're seeking. They are not able to be themselves around you. And because they can be themselves around their friends, they get that sense of normalcy that they're craving, which wants them to be around them. Now, if you have that issue, that is because more than likely they don't view you as their friend. And if that is the case, one of a few things has happened. One, they more than likely, it's possible they could have presented themselves as their fictitious self, and you fall in love with that. And because of that, they're kind of struggling with the fact that they can't be themselves around you. So they try to go into an environment that they can, for lack of a better term, let their hair down. Or they've expressed something to you, and because of the way you responded to it, made them say, oh, maybe I can't tell them everything about me. It's kind of like your children. You might want to watch out how you respond to your children when they share some information with you. Even if you don't like it, or even it's like, I don't want my child to go down that route. If you respond in a manner that makes them feel like, oh, dad kind of tripped or mom just tripped, then you might want to think about the fact that that could be the last time that they share anything intimate with you ever again. So you might want to be mindful as to how you respond to your mate or your man or your spouse or whatever you want to call them, because that could be the last time they share some intimate information with you ever again, depending on how you respond. So you might want to be mindful of, are you really their friend? And if you're in a relationship with when you're not, or you don't feel like you can share those intimate moments, that's already a relationship that's on some pretty shaky foundation, because the person that is your friend is the person you go to about everything. The person that is your friend is the person that you go to and you share what's going on, your thought process, your struggles, and things of that nature. And if you can't do that with your spouse or your mate, the person that you're spending most of your time with, more than likely you're trying to get away from them so that you can express it somewhere or relieve yourself or whatever you have going on. And in that instance, that is when you're being more intimate with someone else than you are with your actual mate or your spouse. So that is where I'm going to leave it for now. And we're going to do some back and forth with me and Michelle on this topic, because I see her jotting down a lot of notes. And also, if you all have anything, y'all questions or anything like that, please don't forget your #9s, or just share whatever questions that you have. I can see you all on Facebook Live. I see you over there, Mr. Holmes. Facts, 100%. Don't forget, that's #9, sir. Michelle.
Okay, so I'm going to frame this with, of course, I am a divorcee, so I have been married. I also have had long-term relationships, dating relationships, and I am evolving. And I would say, based on the framework that you just presented, I have a friendship that has romantic overtones, which may be the good foundation that could ultimately turn into something. And so one of the things that jumped out at me from what you were saying is that, you know, people are married to people who are not their friends. And my first thought was, did they really go into the relationship looking for a friend? Because there's a lot of reasons to get married, and friendship doesn't necessarily become a factor until you need the friend. Because, you know, and again, or just having girlfriends and just being around my friends and stuff, is that, you know, people go into relationships for sex. People go into relationships for stability. People go into relationships for companionship, for having a presence. None of those require friendship. I can be your companion, to be your travel buddy and go shopping and be that dude on your arm. I don't have to be your friend. I just need to be there. Because, you know, some people look at it as, it's, as we talked about before, the other half, which is, I just need the other half. So if the other half is there, then I feel whole, because there's two of us and people are looking at us like we're, like, our relationship is not as important as our projection.
#9, sir.
If our relationship is not as important as our projection, then our friendship doesn't become an issue until I'm going through something. I have a crisis. I feel some sort of void, and I don't want to just be held. I want to be related to. And at that point, then this whole friendship thing becomes, what? Because like you said, if you're the person stepping out looking for your friends, you're probably not even missing the fact that you're not friends with your mate, because you're getting your friendship need met somewhere else. It's the person that's left at home that sees you out all the time, is not getting their friendship needs met, that's probably having an issue right at first, which turns into your issue, because then they start screaming, you're not, you didn't, I don't, you never. And then all of a sudden they say, what happened? We were fine when we were dating because you needed a companion, you needed sex, you needed stability. I provided all that. Now all of a sudden you want friendship?
Now, you pose some good points. The only problem with that is, once it gets to the point where your mate is the actual issue, so now you're going to someone outside of your mate, your quote unquote friends, to talk about your issues with your mate, which never resolves the issue with your mate, because your mate doesn't even know what's going on. So if your mate or your spouse or whatever, your companion, is not the person that's considered your friend, now you have issues with them that your friends or your barber or your hairstylist know everything about, but you're not even getting it resolved, which consistently festers and is being more fed, and it grows into this big thing to where you're snapping, which you can't even get to a great space with your friend because your spouse or your mate is not your friend. So this is why people
enjoy gossiping about that. Like it's a sick joy, but there are people who enjoy hearing about all that mess that's going on at home. And girl, I need to tell you, or boy, you know, they did this, that, and the other. And I'm like, aren't they the friends that's supposed to be saying, go back home and handle that? Like over there, handle it.
The crazy thing about that is, yeah, they do enjoy that gossip, but only when it's not their gossip. So you're the one that's living it. and they are the ones hearing about it. So this is a very good soap opera from an entertainment standpoint, but this is your life. You have to go back to that. Let me read this question really quickly here. It says, what about the friends that give it to you with no sugarcoating? Some people want to go to that friend that they know is going to agree with them. That's good. Usually your spouse is the one who isn't going to sugarcoat stuff. All right, so I'm going to start by replying with, the person that is not going to agree with you on everything is really your friend. The person that you go to and they just tell you what you want to hear is not your friend. That is not helpful to you at all. One thing that I love about my wife, and it's so funny because I do see there's people that, for lack of a better term, want to get on or want to hit on you or like you or anything of that nature is what I mean. I see the like squint, what in the world would it want to get on? So there are women that will try to pursue me or compliment me and things of that nature. And those are the, like, you know, Coming to America. whatever it is that you like. They want to tell you whatever it is that you want to, they think you want to hear in order to quote unquote woo you. Now, what they don't realize is that is a serious turnoff to me. And one of the things that I absolutely love about my wife is she is the most realist person on this earth to me. So she is who I go to kind of see if, am I tripping or whatever, because she's going to keep it, as y'all put it, 100 with me about everything. That allows me to see where I need to grow. And that's what a friend would do. A friend is not going to be the person that is just going to tell you what you want to hear, even though you're straight up wrong. So if that's what you have in your companion or your wife, then that's who you really need to be riding with, because they have your best interest at heart. I'm not going to just tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear, because if you're going in the wrong direction, what I want to hear might not necessarily be what is going to be helpful for me. That's a wonderful question, and that is also true. People are looking for people that are straight up, and when you have that person, that is a great person to respond to. And now I'm not saying that your spouse should be your only friend. You definitely should have mentors and things of that nature, or people that are more well-rounded in areas that you're trying to grow in, that you seek wisdom or counsel from. But from an intimacy standpoint, your mate should know pretty much everything there is to know about you and what's going on with you, so that you're not, for one, going through it alone. I can't stress how there's people, I've been in business meetings, and they're literally trying to keep me there to converse and speak, because I could tell they don't want to go home. Like, your house should be the place that allows you to escape from things. You should not be trying to escape from things by leaving your house. I can't wait to get home. And it's because my home is where my friend is. My home is where I could tell her everything that's going on. And I mean everything. My struggles, when I'm struggling with, like, oh my gosh, it's some women that came to me with some serious stuff, babe. I'm about to go on a fast, or I need you here with me, because my flesh and what the heck is going on with me right now is something serious. I haven't had that struggle in years, but that has been a struggle that I could tell my friend about to help me go through this. You understand what I'm saying? So, but people don't have that. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
At the base of that, isn't that some real trust? There's some trust in the safety. Again, like you said, that the home that you guys have created is safe. There's trust. There's affirmation and comfort. Again, I think that these are the conversations that we don't typically have at the relationship stage. And as it evolves, it's really evolving. I'm going to speak on my own personal experience. I'm not going to say everybody. Because I had a relationship that was a long-term relationship, but it didn't evolve to the next level, because I think it was evolving based on superficial characteristics, right? And they were fine because they were real, but they didn't allow for the depth, right? But if I wasn't so self-reflective and I wasn't dealing with my counseling on no love, I probably would have went, oh, look, this is love, it's happy, like everything's fine, but not realizing I wasn't connecting. I was just getting all my check boxes. I was getting all the check boxes. I was getting presence. I was getting a little stability. I was getting affirmation. I was getting that sense of connection, but I wasn't getting a friend, because they never asked how I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
They never asked, can I help you with X, Y, or Z, or what are your dreams and hopes? It was a lot more of taking rather than giving. And again, it's asking those questions and being from a self-aware space or self-loving space. Am I truly being loved, or am I just checking the boxes?
That was a perfect statement right there. So basically you're saying you had presence, presents, but you didn't have presence, presence. And with that, you don't really know if you're loved. And I can't really stress how important that is if you claim you want to be in a relationship or you're in a marriage, if you can't tell them everything and know that they're still going to love you, then you don't even really know that you are loved. That's how I know without a shadow of a doubt that my wife loves me, because she knows everything about me. She knows my weaknesses. She knows my struggles. She knows my past. She knows my present. And with that, this woman loves me. Now, there's a lot of people that you have a lot of hidden things. And like I said, if you have things like, man, I can't tell my husband that, man, I can't tell my woman that, then you are just indirectly saying that I don't know if my spouse or my mate loves me enough to receive this type of information and still maintain our relationship. And you don't understand how much control that whoever knows that information has over you, or just that secret has over you, because you are working hard for them to not know that thing about you. Not to mention, you're not even being yourself because you don't want them to know who you are, which means they're not really in love with you. They're in love with the representative that you've shared with them, or the version of you that you sold them on. So you're not even loved in the actual the manner in which you presented yourself to them, because they're not in love with you. So you're still fighting with experiencing love because you haven't even presented yourself yet. So you don't even know if they really love you. That is a very, very subconscious battle that you would have to struggle with until you finally are relieved of sharing yourself, which is why people typically go and hang out with their friends, because they can be themselves with them. The interesting thing about that is most of the time, and I see this a lot, the person that's in a relationship that doesn't like their partner's friends really don't like their partner, because that is who that person is when they leave you. Anybody that you want to spend time with is a person that you typically can relate to or you feel comfortable around, because that is who you are. And that's me saying you want to be around that person. You don't just want to be around people that you don't like or you don't really have some kind of connection with. So most of the time when you don't like your man or you don't like your woman's friends, you don't like your woman, because when they leave and they're with them by themselves, they're either receptive to that type of behavior or they typically respond the same way to that type of behavior, and you really don't like them. So you can learn a lot from about your man or your woman just by watching how their friends are. Now, I have friends that I do not hang around with that often because just our lifestyles are not the same. But they're definitely people that I can speak to on an intimate level. They know everything about me, but I don't hang around them because what they're into, I'm not into. That's why I stress the people that they want to hang around with. You can have friends that you're not like, but the ones that you want to hang around with, you want to do the things that they want. I'm going out with such and such, and you're hanging around them quite often. Those are the people that you typically are responding to because they're like you. I see you writing. Go ahead, share. What you thinking?
Oh, my thought is that, so let's go to the front side of this equation, right? So we spent a little bit of time on the marriage and your mate part, but isn't it interesting that you will give your friends latitude? You will give your friend space to make a mistake. You will fight to death with your friend and forgive them. You will, go 2-3 days without talking to them and be like, but that's my girl, that's my dude. I'll talk to him on Tuesday. I forgive him. All of a sudden, everything's fine because you've allowed them to be themselves. You've given them, again, latitude. Yet there's this certain box of expectations around the boyfriend or the girlfriend or the wife that they don't get the same latitude.
Yeah.
They don't get the same space to screw up and get over it and fight, and they don't get the same space.
This is why I stress the whole defining friend, because, and I'm gonna do a show on this. especially people who speak in titles, really, really pay attention to a person that speaks in titles. This is my wife. This is my boss. This is my daughter. When they don't necessarily call you by your name, they call you by title. In their mind, there's a definition associated with that, and they feel that you need to live up to that. And yeah, and if you don't live up to the title or the definition of what that is in their mind, that's where conflict and the problems come into play. And that's why it's important that I stress that if that is your friend and you treat your friends as such, this is your wife and your friend, and you would treat them as such. My wife drops the ball, I drop the ball, we discuss it, and we move on. Just like the same thing with my friends. They drop the ball. Exactly. But that's what allows for more discussions to actually present themselves because of how we responded to that last hiccup that we had. And again, when you blow up and you snap and there's no kind of leniency to their shortcoming, then you're never, ever going to get an opportunity to learn about the other stuff that they're struggling with again. And that's where the true intimacy and the growth and the evolution of such a very tight-knit bond and relationship comes from. It's those secrets or those hardships that you two have overcome together. That's a great point, Terry Holmes, sharing, I like the homie time, but no doubt you love coming home. Can't stress the most important part of that is you love coming home. Some people are going out to hang with the homies and they drinking home away so that they don't have to feel anything. So the fact that you want to go home is the best part. And I've stated before, like I go out and I visit with friends and stuff, and I'm like, man, y'all single, y'all supposed to make me feel bad about being married. Like I should want this life, but I'm like, I can't wait to leave y'all. I love y'all and I enjoy being around y'all, but I'd rather be home with my wife. This is for the birds. But that's because my wife is my best friend. And we have inside jokes and just stuff about each other that we know, and we love each other because we know each other.
So while you were talking,
yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh, so while you were talking, I was thinking about how, and then going back to the verses. So your mate versus your friends, and you were talking about people having friends and hanging out. But there's a certain level of jealousy of friends that can cause a restriction in a relationship, or there's a certain fear around the person hanging out with their friends. And I will tell you, one of the most enlightening moments I had was I was dating someone for a while that literally hung out with the boys at least 2-3 times a week. Like, and at first I was like, why you don't want to hang out with me? But then he said, like, well, just come with me. Honestly, I'm not doing anything. I'm really not doing anything. So I was like, no, that can't be true. You do this too often. And so I went out a couple of times, and I have to say, they really weren't doing nothing. They were literally sitting there talking about nothing. And I was like, I don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to do this every day. But I like that. I like the person you are when you feel like you can. But I don't want, if I say don't go and just sit with me because I need you to sit with me, I don't get this person has had a little bit of time away to reflect or spend time with friends. So I'm saying that to say, it's not always necessary to be jealous or feel insecure about a mate that has friends or hangs out with them from time to time, because it's not always about you. But sometimes it's just, I want to do something different. And I don't know if versus, I think the word, when you say versus your mate versus friends, it becomes it's a rub. And I'm not sure what.
It was intentional. It was intentional because
and I feel like some of the rub is a jealous.
There shouldn't be a mate versus friends. Your mate should be a friend. And you pose a great thought and statement, and I'm glad you brought it up so that I can address it. Some of y'all put yourself in a predicament. If that is how they were when you two got together, and then you want them to change now all of a sudden, that's your fault. So if they already hung out with the guys and they already hung out with the girls and they had quarterly meetups and hangouts and stuff like that, and now you have a problem. Why are you choosing them over me? That's your fault. People, they show oftentimes who they are and how they are. And you either like how they are or you don't. If you don't like how they are, don't try to change them. Move to somebody else that you want to be around. And this is why it's so funny to me. And that's why you need to really, really be mindful of how you go about meeting and becoming intimate with someone or deciding that you want them to be your mate. Because where you find them at is where they like to be at. Now, there's every once in a blue moon where you might find that person that got dragged out to the club or whatever just for moral support, and that's really not their environment. So you two, by happenstance, y'all ended up being in a place that you typically aren't. But for the most part, if you met that person and that's not the conversation that they're having when y'all meet, like, you would have never caught me here in a million years. So it must be meant for us to meet this way. If that is the situation, great. But if you met somebody at the club or you met somebody that like to go out all the time, don't think you're going to be in a relationship and now they don't like doing that. That's the environment that they like to be at. You either need to create that kind of relationship where y'all do that together, or like, people going to find people in places that they don't want to end up in blows my mind. Like, if you don't want your male or your mates or female or woman to be a person that wants to go out in the club, don't go meet them there. That's the environment that they like to be in. So stop going crazy and tripping when they want to do that while y'all together, because that's what they like to do. They showed you who they are when you met them where they were. So, like, I get a lot of that. Like, that's one of the first questions I ask you. Like, he always want to go out with his friends, or she always want to be with. I'm like, were they doing that when y'all first met? Yeah, but whoa, what do you mean? Yeah, but that's what they were doing.
To prefer me now.
No, that's crazy. So, like, no, don't get mad at your spouse or your mate because they have friends outside of you. You need to find some friends or find some kind of outlet, but there's no need for you to get jealous. But oftentimes, a lot of that stuff comes from insecurities as well, which goes back to the foundation. You need to love yourself. When you love yourself, you don't have to worry about what they're going to do. And if you feel that you're so transparent and honest with them that they love you for who you are, you don't have to worry about them going to find somebody else. Like, all of this stuff comes full circle. That's why the foundation of the no love triangle is self-interest. So you can fall in love with yourself so much so that you present yourself and as your authentic self to someone else, who in turn falls in love with you. And then you can be you all the time. You don't have to flip and turn hats on and be one way and when you're at the house, be one way when you're with the fellas, be one. I'm going to tell you one thing about Edward L. Fairley. I am me. The same me on this mic is the same me that when I leave this mic, the same me when I'm at church, the same me that's at work, the same me when I'm at No Love Incorporated. I am me all the time. You could take me or leave me. Even when I struggle with self-esteem issues and my insecurities, I was never presenting a false person to anyone. It was always take it or leave it. When I was in front of you, I just had negative insight or thought processes about myself. It didn't alter who I was around anyone. I just spoke negatively about myself, which distorted my view of people's thoughts of me and things of that nature, but it never made me change who I was as a person. I've always presented my authentic self, which in turn let me know that people like me. Go ahead, Michelle. I see you thinking.
Yeah, my wheels are turning. I think that the flip side of that is because I don't have the same story. Like I had mastered the art of putting the right face on in front of the right group of people. The people pleaser in me has the ability to kind of be a chameleon in that way. And so it depended on what environment the person met me in, who they met. And so there was a certain level of keeping it up or gradually peeling back. So like if you met me as a professional and I'm straight, logic, and accomplished, so to speak. I'm always trying to stay accomplished, and I'm always trying to stay on top of my game. I'm always trying to be on, and there wasn't that vulnerability because I wasn't presenting that vulnerable space to the world. So why would I present that in a relationship? And that gradual peeling back of the onion skin tended to go to what we were talking about before. It's like, so if you met me and I'm a strong person and I'm in control of all of my environment, yet I get in a relationship and you see that there's a softer side or a side that doesn't know everything, I tended to be afraid to show that because then I felt like inconsistent. However, to the friend component, fast forward, 3, 4, 5 years, I'm like, yes, I'm the alpha female in this environment. Yet catch me on Tuesday at 9 p.m. and I am tripping and I'm having an insecurity freak outfit. Like I can't get it together. Same person. Deal with it.
So you pose a wonderful statement, and my only question when I encounter people like that is, which one is you? You understand what I'm saying?
I do, because I had to go through it. So yes, I understand.
Exactly.
I understand. Your question is, how authentic
is,
are you being?
Out of all the faces that you put on,
mm-hmm.
which one is really you? And if you're putting on so many faces, how can you really identify which one you really are? You are no, go ahead.
I can tell you the answer to that question. And I'm going to tell you that it's not an easy thing, but the moment that you have this aha moment, this #9 moment, it is the most liberating thing. Because what you're doing when you're showing the different sides of yourself as a different mask for each person, you're splintering your personality. It doesn't mean that they're not as facets of who you are. It means that you splintered them out into specific pieces. Yet the work of doing the self-reflection or self-awareness or just the foundation of the triangle means you're going to integrate. You're going to sort, you're going to integrate, and you're going to become a whole entity, which does have all of those facets, but they're not shifting like a different mask. They're just being authentically whichever situation calls them up. And I will tell you that integration, as just being able to be any of those things, like I said, same person. Yeah, I tripped 2 seconds ago, but ask me about, executives in the summary and I'm on point. Like that same person. So that person can come to a relationship and be very yes and no and maybe, because if I can be all of those things, I can be like, yes, I truly understand what you're talking about in this area. Oh, I'm really insecure about you going out with your friends, but I'm going to work on that because I'm going to be honest with you. Like all of those things are true. They're all true. Mm-hmm. And it's when you start choosing that you run into the challenge. And I think that's where acceptance. So when I say integration, what I really mean is when you start to accept that all of those facets that you represent to the world are all part of who you are. It's not that you have to choose any one of them. That's that love of yourself, that I accept this package I accept. Yeah. So then I can accept you and all of your crazy.
I literally remember when we were going through your process, and that, don't drop your head. And that was literally who you were. You had your face, you had your corporate face, you had your relationship face, and it used to bother me because what you would do was, and I'm pretty confident she's okay in me sharing this. So this is what Michelle would do, which a lot of you do, and which is why I'm sharing this. And I know she's okay with me sharing this. She would meet people, and typically because of how professional she is, she would meet them in a professional setting. So she would meet the guy, and they were talking business, and she is sick when it comes to business. She's awesome when it comes to business. So she's interacting with this guy from a business standpoint, and she is killing it. She's talking about his business, how he needs to go about doing this and everything, and she's nice. Then she gets attracted to the guy and can tell that he's attracted to her. And it would kind of transition, and she's like, well, I don't know what to do now because I think he likes me, or I like him, and it's like,
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do.
She's like, and indirectly what she's saying is, I don't know how to put on that face. I don't know how to be accurate or good or successful in that face, as opposed to realizing that they fell in love with who she was, what she brought to the business table, her as a person, and that flustered her. She's like, what in the world do I do? I'm like, keep being you and allow that to organically evolve into the successful relationship that it will be. And she got so caught up in the face and how I need to be successful with this type of face. And she was like, I need to put on my relationship face. And before I lose this thought, and I see you, please write it down here so we could talk about it. You said something early, and I really want to address this because there's so many people that use that word. You're like, I'm kind of nervous about the vulnerability aspect. And I want to discuss about how empowering vulnerability and transparency is, because so many people try to shy away from that. And one of the best lessons that I learned from a professor when I was in college was, if you're embarrassed about something, be the first one to talk about it. And I really had to sit in that. If you're embarrassed about something, which basically means you feel you're vulnerable, or I don't want to be transparent about this particular thing. If you are embarrassed about something, be the first one to talk about it. Because if you're the first person to talk about it, you rob anyone else that would have tried to use that as something that they can kind of manipulate you with, and you strip them of the power that comes with it. That's the equivalent of the whole 8 Mile when Eminem said everything that the guy could have possibly said about him that quote unquote would have been embarrassing. It ruined the enemy's ability to take over him. So when you are transparent, when you are quote unquote vulnerable, that is actually giving yourself power, not taking power from you. So I really need us to really shift our thought process when it comes to being concerned about vulnerability and understand where the power of transparency and vulnerability comes from. And so that we can allow ourselves to literally be loved because we're sharing who we really are. And I apologize for interrupting you, but you said that and it really, really resonated with my spirit to where I'm like, I have to discuss this because this is an issue that a lot of people have, which is why they're walking around with these masks and not allowing people to see them. And if you can't be seen, you can't be loved. So I need you to walk around.
Say that again, bro. Say that again, bro.
If you can't be seen, you can't be loved. And so it is imperative that you get comfortable in your own skin. You're going to #9. It is imperative that you get comfortable in your own skin so that you can experience love. So go ahead. I apologize for interrupting you, but go ahead.
No, not at all. I mean,
love you too, Susie Harris.
If you can't be seen, you can't be loved. It is profound, and it speaks to the integration or the wholeness or the self-acceptance. Because if I can't see myself, and I remember, I don't know whether it was Maya Angelou or something on the Oprah show, or whatever, but until you can get comfortable with yourself naked in a room, like I love all my curves, my dimples, and my stretch marks, my hair, my teeth, I'm cool. Like, let me just stand here for a second, and I'm okay. Then you can't do that with anybody else. And I'm saying that it's so cute and it sounds like, oh, that's cool. I don't want to be naked. No. I mean, literally. Because if you don't go through it, it's a process. It's not easy to look yourself in the mirror. I remember when I was going through my process, one of the things was trying to identify where was this need for these masks, right? Well, you can write it down. I had to talk it out, record it, and hear myself before I could really hear what other people were hearing. Like you were telling me all the time, why do you feel like you can't have this conversation when you can have this conversation? I was like, what are you talking about? But until I started talking it out and listening objectively. And that's why I say it's a process. It's like acceptance is first acknowledgement, right? So you can't be loved if you can't be seen, but you can't accept if you can't acknowledge.
Yeah, yeah.
And that means acknowledge. I have to say, one of the most fabulous things that I'm experiencing right now when I'm in the process of being authentic in a friendship with a person of the opposite sex is acknowledging that they don't have to be perfect, or they don't have to meet my expectations, or they don't have to be anything than who they are, and they're still cool. Because one of the cool things is what brought me to liking them was them being who they are. So every time I get frustrated or like, why do you do that? I'm like, hold on. Acceptance means talk about it, not try to change it. Just talk about it so I can help me see it the way you see it. So maybe I can see where I can come over to where you are, or I can talk to you about but they don't have to be perfect.
Yes.
They don't have to have all the answers and everything.
Susie, you said, she said, my ex made me feel bad that I had a degree. That was their insecurities of self. Your degree was threatening to him. And I'm willing to bet he did not have a degree of his own. So that was a threat to him and his insecurities. So yeah, most certainly he would definitely attack the fact that you had it to make you feel bad about it, because that was something that he wasn't willing to look at himself and feel adequate about. Yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
I'm going to ask a question based on being the parent of being the daughter of a very educated person who learned that education can be weaponized. And I say that because it can be lorded over others as I did this, so why can't you? Or I did this, which you have to respect all of this, and this, therefore you should treat me a certain way. And I am a proponent of education. I got a couple degrees, so I'm not saying don't have one. I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that acceptance of yourself, love of yourself, and knowing that you got that degree for yourself means that really doesn't have a place in the relationship, other than just accepting that as no different than I got curly hair and and like the color green, and I have a degree,
most certainly. And you said something that I don't think you realize how profound it is. You said that while dating, you realize that the people that you're dating don't have to be perfect. And I'm going to share how profound that is, because when we can get transparent and we can realize that other people don't have to be perfect, that relieves us of the pressure of having to be perfect ourselves. So what's happening is what people are doing, they're trying to live up to perfection, which in turn forces them to treat other people in that manner, which gives them more pressure to be perfect, because they know that they're going to get attacked when they're not perfect. So when you are the first to forgive, when you are the first to be transparent, when you are the first to, you allow yourself to, for one, receive forgiveness, because you have evidence that it can be done. And it also allows for that other person to be transparent and reciprocate the transparency. So when you do first, you allow for yourself. But if you are trying to be perfect and you're not giving yourself forgiveness and you're not giving other people forgiveness, that's why you start hiding your faults, because you know how you treat other people and you're concerned that they're going to treat you the same way. So you need to be the first person to give that out, disseminate it, share that type of relationship, so that one, you can receive it when it really is happening to you, because when you're not, you can't even receive it because you don't believe it's possible. So when you start to be who it is that you want to, or what you would prefer to experience, as you stated, being humble. I see you, Miss Lisa. When you start to become or be those things that you would want people to be to you, it allows you to receive those type of things when it's happening to you, oftentimes we can't even receive it because we don't believe it's possible because we would never do it. So if you start being that, it will allow for you to receive that. And that's the trick in all of this. That's why it's important for you to learn how to love yourself so that you can then learn how to other people. It's definitely important to start with yourself because it allows for you to be receptive to actually receiving love. Let me read this really quickly. It says, my mom was 16. My dad was 15 when I was born. I grew up in the projects. I loved it. I wish I could give my current children the experience that I did, but it would never happen. But you can simulate the lessons that you receive. You can. I'm a big fan of simulation. I mean, I simulate as much as I can so that my children can indirectly receive the lessons personally themselves. So we can talk more about that. But the concept of the no love process is a simulation. So that's coming. So everything revolving around this because your wisdom comes from experience and from failing. So that is the whole concept of the no love experience in the app and everything. So that's wonderful, Susie. And it is definitely some things that you learn from that you can still teach without them having to have the experience. But that's great information. Thank you for sharing. Go ahead, Michelle.
I'm going to pick up on be the person, be that. It's about loving yourself. And I'm going to go back to when you give your friends latitude and you forgive them and you go the whole roller coaster of emotion with your friends, which you may not tolerate with your mate. But when you're trying to go through the process of self-acceptance, you go through the whole roller coaster with yourself, right? Mm-hmm. So that's the same thing you're saying. Like I've been angry at myself and disappointed for not achieving a certain goal. I've had to forgive myself for not achieving that goal. I've had to accept warts and all. This is the clay that I've been given to work with. And going through those things mindfully and being aware of it, not just tripping through it and stumbling through it, allows you to go when somebody that you're involved with fails. You can easily remember, I failed. I've been in this situation. I don't always do the right thing.
Exactly.
You can extend grace.
Yeah.
You can extend empathy. Because if you can extend empathy to yourself, if you can recognize that you forget to buy the milk on the way home. So they could have, it's reasonable that they could have forgotten because you've forgotten things too. And that empathy is really the basis of acceptance, I've learned. And it's why I no longer expect perfection. And I also, at the moment, I find myself frustrated because the other person is not meeting my needs. I start to look back at what is it that I'm really saying about myself, because they're really not doing anything that they wouldn't be doing anyway. So why is it irritating me today?
Yeah. First of all, it's dangerous to seek anything from a necessity standpoint outside of yourself. That is a dangerous, and you're talking about vulnerable state to be in when you're depending your happiness and anything that you feel is determined by someone else's response. That makes you a thermometer. And you definitely don't want to be in any kind of relationship as a thermometer, because it will be that environment that will dictate your temperature. You need to be a thermostat, meaning that you are the person that dictates your happiness. You are the person that dictates your feelings. You are the person that dictates your sadness, your love. And just like Miss Lisa Robinson said, your self-awareness is definitely necessary. But it's a difficult process. It's an easy yet difficult process. And what I mean by difficult, it's easy to do, but it's difficult to go through, because you are peeling back layers and asking those hard questions and coming to realizations. It's because my mother did this, my uncle did that to me, and all that stuff that causes me to have this thought process or these feelings and things of that nature. But that's the perfect time to do it at this age, because you're old enough to realize how dumb it was to adopt that truth. And you can pull it out and say, that's ridiculous. That's not who I am. That's not how I feel. That's not real. That's not truth. And that will allow for you to grow in that moment. And from that process, in the healing process, and the ability to be able to share that information from a standpoint, especially we're talking about friendship and intimacy. A lot of people, this is what they do. Something happens, their mate, their spouse, and they respond to them and they don't like it. So they say, don't do that to me. Now, what I need you to be mindful of is that response was a reaction. That's how they felt they should have reacted. And you're saying, don't do that, or I don't like that, because it had an impact on you, understandably. But what you're not realizing is their response was a reaction, which means that's who they are. And for some reason behind their thought process, that was a necessary reaction or response.
It made sense.
And this is where we fail to get results in our communication, because we don't share the story. And that's twofold, because sometimes we don't know what the story is. We just know that that made me mad. Don't do that to me. But if you're self-aware, you can share the story behind it, which it's the story that makes them remember to don't do that again, or to not do that again. So if you say, don't touch me like that, I don't like that, they might remember for the first week, so, or month. But as I stated before, it was a reaction, or just them doing what they feel was conducive to that environment or that setting. That was their reaction. But if you say, don't touch me like that, the last guy that touched me that way raped me. Oh, now that's something that to the core, they will not forget, because that caused an actual reaction for them to say, I don't ever want you to feel like you're about to be raped by me. But some people can't articulate that that is what caused them to feel uncomfortable, so they can't get them to stop a habit that someone else who's just trying to show love is doing. So it is very important. It's imperative for you to have self-awareness and understand why you're angry. Why does this make you happy? Why does this make you sad? So that you can share the story behind it when you express that to your mate, so that they can stop doing or start doing the things that you need from them from a relational standpoint. So that is very self-awareness is very, very important. Michelle?
So I wanted to, so again, this is your mate versus your friends. I wanted you to kind of expound a little bit on friendship, because a friendship, a perception of a problem with friends is really rooted in whatever you believe friendship to be, right? So if you believe friends, if you're a female, like I'm a female, and if I think that all women sit around and gossip and are just, talking negatively about the relationship because they don't got one, which is stereotypical and not necessarily true, then I'm going to have a problem if my dude is going to hang out with their friends, because I've attributed my experience to him.
That's so true.
So
That's true.
I wanted you to talk a little bit about having a healthy friendship, because we spend a lot of time on the mate part, but in order for me to really have a trust and a faith in my mate having friends, I need to have a really good understanding of what friendship should be.
That is a wonderful point. People, as I stated earlier when I said titles and things of that nature, they have definitions of what certain things mean. So which is why it's imperative that we go on this no love journey or mission, so that people can know and identify what love is, so that they can experience it and express it. So just like that, friendship is the same way. There's a lot of people that look at friendship the incorrect way. So they're looking for that, or they assume that that is what their mate that's leaving their household to hang with their friends are doing. So, wow, that is a great point. So let's talk about a healthy friendship. Yeah, because healthy friendship is definitely not gossip. Healthy friendship is definitely not putting your friend in a predicament where you would make their life worse off if the advice that you're giving them would put them in a bad predicament. So if I'm giving you I think you should go ahead and hook up with old girl over there, and if he gets caught or she gets caught doing what it is that you told them to do, that will make their life worse off, then that's not good friendship. So you need to be mindful of the counsel that you surround yourself with, because if it is not in a manner that is making you better or allowing you to grow, and what I mean by grow, it's combating or conflicting with what your beliefs are, but it's helpful where you can step back and say, all right, I don't like what he or she is saying, but this is true. And, you know, I gotta take it for what it is. And you and I have that a lot. Like, I don't like what he just said to me. I need a day or two.
Amen.
But in the end, you come back to me and you say, you know what? I love how you love me. I love how honest you are. I see you, Nas. Good to see you, sir. And actually, that's one of that's a guy that we've had those conversations where he's like, yo, I ain't like how you said that to me. I don't like what you said, but you know what? You were being a friend. You were being honest. You were being transparent, and you were showing me love. So if you're surrounded by people that are just whatever it is that you like, or they're going to say what makes you feel good, and you don't ever feel any kind of turmoil or inside problems, then more than likely that's not your friend. That's someone who more than likely is just trying to get something. They're trying to benefit off of this relationship. And half the time when you go through stuff, they're not even the people that you can call and actually get help or guidance within the situation in the first place. So just be mindful of the intent behind people that want to be around you. And again, if what they're sharing, whether it hurts you or not, is something that is to prevent you from being in a worse off situation, even though it might be tough to hear, that is your friend. Just like the Terry said earlier, he said, you know, some people want that raw in your face, or some people walk to the person that is going to tell them what they want to hear. The person that's telling you what you want to hear and not what you need to hear, that's not your friend. Gossiping and talking bad about other people, that's not your friend. Talking about other people's relationships in a negative way and things of that nature, that's not your friend. And that's oftentimes why you have a problem with your mate going out with their friends, because you think they're going to duplicate what it is that you do with your quote unquote friends with them. So you're trying to protect yourself from being the conversation because you know that's the kind of conversation that you have. And again, that is just the nature of the beast. What you put out is what you're concerned that you're going to receive. So you can either start putting out what you prefer to receive so that you won't be concerned about things like that, or you can keep on living your life the way that you're doing so that you could be more concerned about being, what y'all say, vulnerable or transparent and things of that nature. So that was a great point. Like, you need to define what friendship is before we start saying be a friend. So I'm glad that you brought that to my attention, because you know me.
To your point, if we are, or the people that our mates have been hanging around with before they met us, right, are their friend group. So we got to accept that. Yeah. If we don't like that, then that's the real conversation that we really need to have. However, if they're there to your point, they tend to surround themselves with people who invest in them and pour into them and build them up. Do we care if they're hanging out with their friends?
Not at all. We don't. Not at all.
We really want them to go hang out with their friends so they come back better. Like, please go hang out so you can come back.
Exactly.
Thought-provoked, like something.
I've had times where I'm like, please go hang out so that you'll come back grateful that this is what we got going on.
Even that's good, right?
Exactly. Like, go ahead. Go hang out with your friends. I'll see you later, sooner than later.
You'd be like, please come home. Please.
So
I like that.
Well, we can definitely keep this conversation going, but we have passed our hour mark. I am loving the responses, the questions, and things of that nature. I promise you all, we're going to unpack some serious stuff on this journey so that we can get to a place where we are experiencing love on purpose and not by chance. Please don't forget your #9s, and we are going to see you all next Thursday. Any closing remarks you have for the people, Ms. Michelle?
No, I never remarked enough. And I thank you for being my friend And let me give you this tribute in the closing. I think I said this to you last week, that on my no love journey, as someone who had trust issues, one of the things that I am so grateful for is consistent exposure through you to these conversations. And the way that you show up and the way that you're consistent has helped me to learn how to trust and how to be more vulnerable. Again, having those conversations. I don't like what he said, but I'm gonna come back and talk to him. So making me a better mate for whoever is so blessed to get me, but whoever that is, but I'm gonna be better for it. And I appreciate you for the time, effort, and energy you put into the no love process, so that I know that I can walk with that.
This stuff, first of all, thank you. I'm humbled and I appreciate that. And this stuff keeps me, I can't stress to you all enough, this stuff keeps me up at night. Because as I stated so many times before, that if I can get people to love themselves, I can get people to have loving relationships. If I can get people to have loving relationships, I can create loving communities. If I can create loving communities, I can create loving cities, which will bleed into loving states, which bleed into loving nations. And then ultimately love will be across the world, which in turn will solve so many different problems that we're putting band-aids on by creating these centers to take care of this symptom and that symptom, when the core of the problems is lack of love. Love kills racism. Love kills violence. Love kills all the things that typically come from self-hate, abusive relationships, all those things. And if we teach what love actually is, people can actually experience it and do it. And then from there, everything will take care of itself. And I just ask that you all continue to take this journey with me, because I promise you, everything that I'm doing here is for you all, for our future, for our children. And I'm humbled, and I receive this calling that I've been given to educate people on what love is so that they can experience it. Because it bothers me to watch people who just don't realize how much loving themselves could make their life so much better. I remember looking back on a year that I thought was tough and having a great year following it. And when I really, really investigated the year that I thought was a great year, it was the same exact year as the previous year. I just had a different mindset. And what I need for you all to do is experience a shift and paradigm shift in your mindset, so that you all can realize that you are and can live in love. With that being said, I appreciate your minds and time. Y'all be safe. And until next week, y'all have a good one. Peace.